Okay, there is selling which is coming through. We're down about 80 points right now off the highs. Recovery is getting sold into. So a very different kind of day compared to the last few. So it'll be morning. I'm Prashant. You're with us here on a fresh new edition of Trading Hour. I'm just going to quickly take our viewers through just a bunch of points which I think illustrate, to me at least, what was the message from the Fed. And I want to say this. If you were expecting the Fed to puncture the risk rally we've had on for the last so many days, that did not happen. We don't have a risk rally on at the moment on the screen because the market is down 80. But, I mean, I'm talking about the theme per se. The move has been one of risk on, and the Fed has not derailed that. I mean, price action has been lackluster, as the graphic says up on your screen. The dollar is slightly weak. Why is the dollar weak? Essentially because the key message, the key takeaway from the Fed meeting was that we will keep our foot on the stimulus pedal for the foreseeable future. And, you know, if you thought that the Fed is going to look at the S&P 500 or other asset markets at all-time highs, back at all-time highs, and say, well, you know, this is unintended consequence because of all the money printing that we are doing, and hence we are going to take our foot off the pedal. I mean, Jeremy Powell, the Fed chairman, basically made it as clear as it is possible. He said it in the press conference that, asset prices are no consideration when we decide what to do in terms of supporting the economy. So the stimulus is still very much on. There is no backpedaling there. And that's the reason why I'm saying, I mean, this move that you're seeing slightly offish and slightly lower, I mean, I don't think you can blame it on the Fed. I mean, it's just more, I would say it's mostly positioning. We've had a huge, tremendous rally, and we've seen that now for the past so many days. Monday, for example, the market came off the highs. Tuesday, we saw similar kind of price action. Yesterday, it was very, very iffy, very volatile, except that last 30-minute surge, which took us up about 90 points. But we are back to being slightly down again. Down about 85 now. I think we're at the day's low. Surabhi, morning.
Good morning, Prashant. Yeah, but, I don't know whether we can entirely write off the market's interpretation of, the Fed's dovish commentary just yet, right? Because the selling has started, and as you mentioned, the market's run up already so much, and it's playing out in the nature of stocks as well. So what's falling the most? Surely banks, because that's what led the rally. And look at IT stocks today. So if the dollar is going to get into an extended patch of weakness, we know that's not good news for IT. We know that's not good news for pharma. So these are the pockets of the market where the selling is coming in. Tech Mahindra is down 2%. Sun Pharma is on the lower side. Pharma also additionally because there is a litigation on price fixing that's been extended to certain derma drugs, and that's impacting Sun Pharma quite a bit. But aside of that, look at your big names, your Infosys, TCS, look at HDFC Bank. So big pillars of the market are down as we speak. Reliance is down about 2%. So, I mean, I'm just wondering, Prashant, what's going to hold up the other end? What will propel people to come back in and buy just yet? So that's something to watch out for. But of course, lots of important domestic news to track as well. We have important action in the courts coming up in the Supreme Court. So telecom stocks are going to be in focus. And IndusInd Bank, just the final word on stocks. IndusInd Bank is an outlier. It has been one for a while. There's some interesting buy-sell action taking place with certain influential investor names coming in. Talk of promoter buying. So that stock is still holding up about 5%. But otherwise, I think slightly on tenterhooks, Prashant, because we're looking at the Monday lows once again, the lows that we had wiped out yesterday.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There is cool off, absolutely no doubt about it, which you're seeing on your screen. But this is just one day. I mean, we've had a tremendous move. Let's pick it up exactly there. Richard Harris is with us to answer some of those questions. Richard, good morning. Great to have you with us here. You CEO at Port Shelter Investment Management. Richard, how would you look at the Fed announcement and all the clarifications which came with it? I was just mentioning earlier that, I mean, the market may be lower, but don't blame it on the Fed. The Fed did nothing to endanger the rally, so to speak. Your thoughts?
Well, you wonder what game the Fed is playing. They don't seem to be acting as a central bank anymore. They're putting a floor under the markets. They're terrified that the markets may go down. It's not really helping the ordinary economy to have the markets bubbling so much, because what's going to happen at the end of the day is there's going to be far too much money around. That money is not going to be spent wisely. We'll have a lot of survival of zombie companies that probably should go bust. And the issues at the end of the day are just going to build up. I mean, I'm I'm just reading an article at the moment where you can see that a lot of this happened with Greenspan, who didn't really control the bubbles back, in the 90s. And we've just gone on from there with Bernanke not willing to deal with the economy, not willing to face any kind of recession that at least would have cleared things out. And now we're in a position of a central bank just printing unlimited amounts of money, which is going to end up in the stock market. So the eventual outcome doesn't look good. The outcome in the meantime, of course, means that we're going to get underpinning of the markets.
Will the rally continue, though, in markets, Richard? What you're pointing out is slightly sort of long-termish implications, but, markets are markets.
Yes, I think there are a lot of people out there who have cash. There's a lot of money going into the market. So every time the market does come back and say, hold on, it's going too far, too fast, maybe we'll see pullbacks of 10%, maybe even 15%. But it looks as if there are enough buyers willing to come in and buy low in order to keep things going. I mean, even if you look at the last crash, we went down somewhere around 30%. But in the US, that only really took us back 2 or 3 years. Other countries, of course, went back almost 10 years to their lows. But the US now has recovered, move on ahead. 1 or 2 markets are in their all-time highs. The stock market is bearing very little relationship now to what underlying value is. And that's always a problem because at one point there'll be a trigger factor where people say, no, it's too much and I'm going to get out. I don't think people are going to get out just yet. I think probably through to the end of the year, if we do have pullbacks, we'll see people buying and coming back in.
Okay, that's an interesting thought, Richard. Good morning. The market also seems to have completely thrown the possibility of a second wave of infections out of the window, right? Is that a real risk if we start getting a much bigger wave of infections and maybe if governments start talking about partial closure measures again? Or do you think that's not something that the market has to worry about at all for the time being?
Well, I think the market does have to worry about it. We've now got reports that cases are rising very rapidly in Texas. We're almost looking as if we're on the beginning of the curve again in Texas. Don't forget that where this has happened elsewhere, places like South Korea, even here in Hong Kong, where it looks as if maybe a second wave has been happening, the authorities have very quickly brought in measures like stopping kids go to school to try and clamp down. So most economies that have dealt with it quite well have had an eye on the second wave or maybe the third wave, brought back a few restrictions until that had worked its way through the system, and then moved on again. The Texas issue, because the view in Texas has basically been, well, we're just going to carry on as normal, is perhaps more serious because you wonder whether the authorities can draw back to a lockdown situation before easing again. If that's not possible, then I think we will see the rest of the world start pricing equities down because of a second wave. But as I said before, if prices get too cheap, there's plenty of money out there to go back in.
Okay, that's the interesting point. I think that you've explained it really beautifully, that even if we do get a second dip, there's money waiting to come in. Where do you think this money will go, Richard? Will it find a preference for developed markets? Will it be willing to take on additional risk in emerging markets like India at all?
Well, I think it'll be the traditional cycle. If you can't really figure out what things are going to happen, then look at what generally happens in the past. And what we have been seeing, I mean, even recently, we've been seeing a surge in things like tech and farmers. And then behind that move, you'd start to get a rotation into value, into banks as they come on through as well. So I think that's likely to happen. I think it's been largely, obviously, the standout markets have been the US markets, but you've also seen it happen in Europe as well. What tends to happen is further down the line, do people start looking when they're more confident that it's definitely a risk-on situation, more confident of looking at emerging markets. But I'd still be reasonably confident that some of that loose liquidity that's bouncing around is also going to end up in emerging markets because it always does. The only thing that might interrupt it is if we have some serious pullbacks elsewhere. But I think that we are probably on the same path as we normally are, the liquidity path, the confidence path that you see in these times.
Just one last brief question, Richard, back to, that